order. Go ahead and stand. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Vanessa?
Here.
Barb? Absent. Lauren?
Present.
Dave?
Present.
And Mike?
Present. Number 4, new and old business items. Letter A, review of the park impact fee and facility needs assessment proposals. Mike?
So to start off here, we have American Structure Point. They will be here. They'll be going over park impact fee and the facility needs assessment proposal. So once you guys ready to go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. John Kennedy with American Structure Point. I would like to thank you for the opportunity for us to review our proposals with you, and more importantly, to answer any questions or comments you might have regarding those proposals. So, Mr. President and Board, if you're okay, we thought we would start out with the facility needs assessment, then go into the park impact fee proposal, then ask questions and answers, and then have final thoughts. Is everyone good with that? Okay, so a little housekeeping. You know me. I'm going to first turn it over for the facility needs assessment to Dan McCluskey. Dan McCluskey is a project manager with American Structure Point. He's an architect. And then hopefully Jason will be joining us. He was unable to join us. Jason works for Synergy Sports, which this is what they do. And they're our team. This is what they do is facility needs. And Dan is an architect, so we team together because we're looking at a three-phase approach. First, a needs assessment, which is sort of determining what benefits or amenities the town could use, right? What's missing, what we could improve upon, and then put it together. So that would be phase one, what this needs assessment would do. Then what we're thinking is phase two would be, once there's consensus on what those amenities or things look like, then we would do a cost estimate and then start to scale a building, lay it out on paper, what it would look like. And then if that's good for the town and the Park Advisory Board, then you go into actually designing it and building it. 3 phases. 2 reasons that approach is great and why working with Structure Point would be good is, one, you're not putting the cart before the horse. You're taking step phase by phase by phase to make sure everyone's on the same page. Second thing is, we could take it to start to finish. We could help you with the needs assessment. We could do the cost estimating with our team, and then we can actually design it. Just some amenities in Northwest Indiana that you might be familiar with or might not, but that you can actually go and see. We designed the Hammond Sportsplex, which has been a very huge success. We just finished the Dean and Barbara White Community Center for the town of Maryville, another very huge success. So this is in our wheel well. Dan's specialty is municipal facilities, sports and rec. This is what he does. Then after that, we'll turn it over to Matt O'Rourke. Matt O'Rourke is our group leader for planning. He was on the municipal side, worked in the planning department. Now he's on the consulting side. He's on the dark side. But he understands comp plans, park impact fees, and the synergy with those 2 activities, having a new system or a new facility in your system and doing a park impact fee. And having his knowledge is going to be great. And then we're going to have Chris Murphy, our vice president of Structure Point, give you final thoughts. So 2 things I want to walk away with before I turn over my time is, I understand the heritage of St. John and their German history. I brought up McCluskey, Murphy, Kennedy, and O'Rourke. I'm half German, so please don't hold that against me. And then finally, American Structure Point, we're based out of Indianapolis. We have a 20-person office here in Maryville. That's where I'm out of. We're a multidiscipline design firm, architecture, civil, planning. This facility, we say facility, but it could be more than just a facility. We look at it as a sense of place for St. John. So you don't have to go to a different community. You have the Freedom Fest, huge success. But we're looking at this facility, whether it's indoor, outdoor, a mixture of both, is a sense of place. You need a firm that has a multidiscipline to put it all together, because this is a one opportunity, and it's going to make St. John even better than it is. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan McCluskey. With that, I'm going to do my Vanna White impersonation and hand out some brochures that we'll go through.
Good evening, everybody.
Vanna White.
Hi,
Yeah,
how you doing?
yeah,
Right.
even close to that, I do my best.
Thank you.
What John's handing out there is just some examples of our work, and really it's our approach for this project. How we responded to your request for qualifications was understanding how we see these projects best being a success. Is, as John said, it's a multi-step process. Certainly want to make sure that the town is getting the amenities that they need. So the things that we want to highlight of things, the steps that we would take in this initial proposal would be, how is your town growing? How fast? How big? Who's coming? Who's going? Visitor, rates. Jason Boudry, my teammate here, that's what he specializes in. He has all the demographic database information. He's done dozens of, hundreds of these type of projects where he's studying how these amenities can best benefit the town or the organization that they're trying to develop too. And what kind of, as John was saying, what kind of identity do you want as a town? I mean, this is a community amenity. We want to understand what the community wants. Is that and that's generally voiced by, we like to keep that to more of a stakeholder or call it a blue ribbon committee kind of group to, if you kind of open it up to the masses, sometimes it gets kind of unruly. So we want to make sure you guys have a structure of the people that would be influencing those decisions on what's best. Would be it outdoor, as John said, a mixture of outdoor and indoor. We want to see who your competition is from other communities. Is this going to be a attractor for new residents to come in? Certainly, probably could be. It's not. I don't foresee it being like a revenue generator like some of these other facilities we've been working on lately are. I think it's more of a community asset, and we want to make sure those assets, to create that sense of place, are well suited. Financial modeling. Maybe Jason could go into this a little bit more. In our brochure, we highlight an example project of what are all the factors that go into developing a project like this, and then set that over a 5 to 10 year plan. Jason, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And it's a little hard hearing you guys, but I'll kind of give an idea of our approach to stuff like that. And like Dan said, I mean, we've done dozens, if not hundreds, of these studies for municipalities and towns across the country. And so, one of the things that we really like to do, as Dan mentioned, is not put the cart before the horse, and put these things together the way that the data says they should be put together, rather than arbitrarily drawing buildings and creating schematics before the true needs are known. And so as we put that together, we look at demographics, we look at socioeconomics, we look at movement patterns, we look at spending, we look at population growth and those sorts of things. And then as the facilities put together, we're going to help with the operating pro forma, putting together your revenues and expenses, so you have a good idea how the building's going to operate, what your operating expenses are going to be, year 1 through year 5 through year 10, so you can manage not only the day-to-day operations but things like deferred maintenance. And so you have a very clear picture going into the project what the responsibility of the town is going to be to support this project over the course of the next however many years. And so we want to arm you guys with the most information possible. And because we've done so much of this, we can get very, very granular and are very, very accurate in our projections. So when we look at things like that, we're typically within 3 to 5% of actuals when we look back, comparing our actuals to our projected on projects that we initially did needs analysis for, and then fully developed them, and we're either analyzing information or helping to operate these sorts of facilities. So, we'll be able to model those things for you as this project moves along.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I mean, I think what all this information can help provide is right sizing it for you guys. What Merrillville did or what Hammond did, it probably isn't correct for what you guys need. Is it are these outdoor amenities a better asset for your community than indoor things? So, and building indoor stuff is more expensive than outdoor, in general. Unless we're talking pools or things like that. And that, that's usually one of the big questions that comes up, is a pool required? Or is it court space? Is it pickleball? Is it community space? Is it rock climbing like we did in Merrillville? There's all these type of things that we want to understand. Is this a desire of the, so we can put all these puzzle pieces together. We take a stab at, okay, building's going to be X square feet, because I don't believe that you guys have a site in mind yet. Maybe you do, but down the road, next step would be to take that information and right size a building, right size knowing where it goes in the town. Those are all good information that we've been able to glean from this first step. So I just want to make sure where everybody knows, like John said, we're at this first step. Right. Mm-hmm. And then is it a venue that would increase visitors? Is that a benefit to the community to bring and co-locate other businesses that could feed off of the excitement that would be around a facility like this? So how does that get involved? And that I think that's a metric that Jason can speak to of how that would help the bottom line going down the road. So
yeah, for sure. Well, and that leads into also things that should be important to the town. Not just visitors, if that's something that is a goal, but hotel room night stays and visitor spending, and bigger than that is local economic impact. How much sales tax is generated, how much hotel tax is generated, how many dollars are coming into the region, if you choose, and if the data supports that a facility that can handle, a small regional tournament is ideal. I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Or, baseball fields or soccer fields or whatever. Being able to generate economic impact through non-residents, or visitor spending, is always a great metric, not only for building the destination brand of the town, but also to then lure other retailers and coffee shops and restaurants and hotels, if that's the goal. We'll be able to, through this first phase, start to look at what some of those numbers can be, given what the goals of the town and the other key stakeholders are.
So with that, where I believe this effort would best inform the other half of what you guys are looking for in the park impact fee study, how much we're going to study and develop a program and a needs analysis for the facility. How is that going to inform what Matt O'Rourke would help you with in a park impacts fee study? And I'll let him speak to that a little bit.
Good evening, everybody. Just to reiterate, my name is Matthew O'Rourke. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Group Leader for American Structure Point. I know a lot of folks know us as architects and engineers, but our group specializes in landscape architecture and urban planning, so we do a lot of long-range planning efforts, parks and rec plans, park fee impact studies, comprehensive plans, downtown plans, pretty much all those things under our umbrella in our group. And we're really excited to be a part of this effort. Oftentimes when we do these studies, there's not this kind of catalytic project going on, this creating the sense of place, all the things that Dan mentioned. So we're really excited to not only work with that and Jason's team, because a big part of what goes into a park impact fee study is data. Getting all data, in particular, you're going to be looking at your population projections, and in particular, and more specifically as it relates to a park impact fee, your housing starts. How many homes or units do you think are going to get permitted over the next 5 years? Because basically your fee is, per unit, how many you're going to charge. So that's how you start breaking down what your fee is. And we treat this very much like a Parks and Rec plan in a lot of ways. In the submittal, we had our 3 E's, what we call educate, explore, and empower. And we do this for a reason. It's really important to us to get out there, learn the community, learn about the existing data. Essentially, similar to a Parks and Rec plan, we need to go out and inventory all the parks, at least in a high-level form, understand what's there, looking at the existing Parks and Rec plan, make sure what's updates are in there, because what a park fee lets you pay for is capital improvements specifically. So that can be maintenance, upgrades, ADA accessibility items, and obviously new recreational facilities, but we need to have a pretty good, robust understanding of what all those things are out there, what's been completed since your last Parks and Recs plan, what's left, and then also new items that you're going to want to include as well, such as the facility or any other park needs that are out there. So we treat this very much like we're looking at it like a Parks and Rec plan. We want to have a really great idea of what's out there. That's educate. Second phase, explore. We're going to talk through these with either this group or a steering committee, however you choose to set that up. We're flexible as far as that goes. But definitely want to have some conversations about items that you think are needs for the next 5 years. And then empower is when we put all that together and we'll come up with our actual recommendation for the next 5 years. And really great timing on this. I know the park fee needs to be updated this summer, statutory requirements so that you can only extend it for 5 years. That's coming up. So we'll be able to almost seamlessly integrate the work that Dan and his team are going to do with our work so that we get to that point. You have your fee, and we're going to be able to incorporate, that's been a little different based on the research we've done. We'll be able to incorporate these new fees into there as well, so that be robust. Now, I don't know if you want to set your per unit fee at exactly what it would cost for this new, or the new facility, but you could. But it's very important when you do that that you have the justification behind it. And so that's really where this process leads us to, justifying just exactly how much you need based on all your capital expenditures. And it wouldn't be just this one project. It would be all those things that we go out and study, making sure that's in there and it's justifiable. And then you have really good information, good data, good housing projections, and also housing unit projections based on where you expect to grow. So that's where the planning discipline really ties into the Park and Rec, expertise with all of our projections. That's how we get to this. We do it in a very systematic way, make sure we're not missing anything too. So that's very important for how we go about these processes. Really, the only thing I wanted to mention too is the way we do this process. I noticed that the Parks and Rec master plan, those are also supposed to be updated every 5 years. You're getting close to that point. The current one goes through year 2024. At the end of that year, and basically the update that's required is for IDNR, Indiana Department of Natural Resources grants. To be eligible for those, you have to have a plan that's been updated within the last 5 years. This process would set you up to start the ground running on them, because you have to do that same inventory and a very similar needs assessment as part of that analysis too. So this would almost dovetail right into that project to really set you up to not only update your park fee, but really get the ball running on that too, because that's something you're going to want to consider in the next year or so. That's generally speaking a 8 to 12 month process, because IDNR does require a lot of robust public engagement and needs assessment activities beyond just the facility. So you'd almost be short circuiting that process of being set up really to run one into the other. So that's kind of how when we reviewed everything, we looked at the history, that's how we looked at the approach, and that's how we basically addressed the scope that we included for you for this evening to discuss. So with that, I will turn it over to our Vice President, Chris Murphy, for some closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. I'm Chris Murphy, Vice President with Structure Point and Principal in charge of all the projects that we work in the region in Northwest Indiana and communities that are all involved by this area. It's my job, part of my job, to put together the best team that we have in our company, and I will even say in the state of Indiana, for projects to deliver to communities in Northwest Indiana. And I think, as you've heard tonight from Dan and Matt and Jason and John, that we have a very experienced and outstanding team to review and study your situation, come up with solutions that we can deliver to the benefit and the value of St. John. And I think the testament of that is in the communities that we have completed projects similar to this effort that we're undertaking for St. John. And you've heard it mentioned here a couple of times tonight, the Sportsplex in Hammond and the Community Center, Dean and Barbara White in Maryville, and the success that those communities have realized from those projects and the effort that these guys have put together in helping the communities plan and deliver these projects. And it's something that I and John, this is our job, and we take this very seriously, because at the end of the day, the community is going to live with the results of our effort for 20, 30, or more years from the benefits that can be realized from successful progress and delivery of this type of effort. So we're excited about given the opportunity to work on this project for St. John. We look forward to it, and I would like to ask if there are any questions that myself or the team can answer. We're here to answer them this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I guess the only question I would have is, based on the fact that we have to renew our comprehensive plan 18 months, that's a good enough time window, you think?
For the Parks and Rec master plan?
Well, yeah, I mean, we understand that we have to get there.
Yep.
And is 18 months, not for the facilities to be built or anything, I'm just talking about getting the assessments, and is that a workable window?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of dates you should be aware of when your plan would expire in 2024. Like I mentioned, I shouldn't say expire, just wouldn't be updated in the last 5 years. Really, IDNR, they review the plans, they recommend approval before St. John would. There are a couple of key dates, and they just updated one where if you're in the year before, you have to have it submitted by November 15th, at least half the plan, so that they can review that and that you're looking at your dates for the next. They ultimately have to approve the plan in April of the year before it's no longer valid. So really, you're kind of getting really close to that timeline, and that's why I mentioned it earlier.
You're talking April of this year, basically.
Yeah.
Because we're in 23.
It would be April of 24, I apologize.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But you want to have at least half the plan written by November of this year to make
Gotcha.
sure that you're hitting your windows.
And that, from now till then, you feel is a, workable time frame?
Yeah, typically it's an 8 to 12 month process. The biggest variable there is when you start. It's a lot harder to do public engagement activities in the winter, essentially. So if you can hit our philosophy on public engagement is we go where the people go. So we don't just do open houses. We like to go to community events, festivals, things where families are going to be to talk about parks. So if you start kind of in the spring, it kind of shortens the time frame a little bit.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Any other questions I can answer?
Just
Or the
one
team can answer. I'm sorry.
one question about your partnership with Synergy Sports. What is it that they bring to the table, and how is it going to make this a better plan for the town?
Sure, Dan?
I mean, Synergy, they're just a different skill set, basically. I mean, we're trying to bring together, I'm an architect, so I want to create the place, I want to create the building, but he understands the financials and the demographics, and he has, certain access. Jason, can you speak to that a little bit? How like I said, I'm the bricks and mortar a bit, and he's more the numbers kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just bringing together kind of experts in each area, right? Where you don't want me designing a building, but if you want to know the data behind the people that are going to be using the building, or the data behind the people that are going to be spending money to come visit the building, and what the building is going to cost to run, operate, then that's really what's in our wheelhouse. And so what we do really complements what Dan and his team does from a design standpoint, right? He's going to lean on us for some of the programming features, and then we're going to feed to him, you know, all of the data that we're bringing into this, and that's going to really form the basis of what he designs, not necessarily from an aesthetic standpoint, but from a functional standpoint. So that's how these two pieces, you know, really complement each other on the first piece of this.
Thank you.
Yep, sure.
I had a follow-up question to that. Have you had successful projects partnering with Synergy?
I'm sorry, say again?
Has Structure Point had successful projects partnering with Synergy?
We have a few other projects in current with them.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, we are a new relationship, but each project that we've dealt with them hasn't. We've for different reasons they haven't progressed as you know, but it's not because of us. You know? So, but I did want to be honest. It's a new relationship, but one we've found that I think can really benefit to our clients that we've dealt with. So.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hey, Dan,
Yes, sir.
you might want to, we have used their information to start, conceptual design.
Right.
It's just that the financials have faltered from the owner's side, and we haven't been able to move forward.
Right.
Just for the record, that's Mike Gardner. He's team leader with our architectural department.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I think we're done. We appreciate it. Very informational. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly, if any questions come up, you know how to get a hold of John. We'll follow up.
Would you want them for anybody else in the?
That's fine. I'll take them. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Too.
Good evening, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
They're on the parking lot.
What's that?
The other guy's in the parking lot.
All right. You want to discuss this a little bit, or?
Well, the only thing, the recent email that Joe sent out is that new partnership is gonna cost us more money, correct? Based on,
It went from 20 to 25,000.
Right,
So,
okay.
yeah, I mean, in actuality, I still believe they're the lowest on the feasibility study.
right.
So,
No, that was the gist of what I understood from that, okay.
because they didn't update the and they didn't put it in their thing, so that's why I reached out to them. I'm like, that we kind of would like to know that. So if it's changed, then you need to let us know.
What happened with their other company they're working with?
He became the CEO of the South Shore Convention and Visitors.
So they've moved on.
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah. Moved on and up. Yeah.
So that company's no more at all.
I don't believe so, yeah.
I think it said it in the email that they had closed.
Yeah.
I didn't know if this was part of that
So
company.
that's why they had to kind of go into a different partnership. And that's why I was asking about the partnership, what they're bringing to the table, that kind of thing, so,
Interesting.
yeah.
I do want to add, I appreciate you guys go through this bid process. You got 3 bids, went through a solid process. This is good business. This is the right way to do it. I appreciate you doing the work.
And we did do some scoring, and we'll go over that afterwards.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So this is Tagi from the Arts Group. So Tagi, whenever you're ready, you're good to go for the impact fee and the needs assessment. Oh, yeah.
Did you say we can go with impact fee first?
Yeah, impact. Yeah, whichever you want to
Okay.
start is fine.
Okay, great.
Thank you. We'll share. Oh, do you have enough?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
How you doing? Good.
Hi there. Evening. Thank you very much. That'll be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's my card.
Thank you.
Can start?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. It is,
Happy New Year.
It is really a pleasure to be here. What I have done is put a having done this for the last 3 impact fee. I don't recall any of you being in those committees, so I thought at least I'll give you a sort of very much briefing of what impact fee is about, and then share with you some of the findings we had for the last impact fee. And I think that should help the process that we are going to go through and then complete this. As I mentioned, we have done for the town since 2008 your impact fee, parks impact fee. We have also done 2 road impact fee for the town. The last road impact fee was in 2021, and I know Jason was involved with in the midst of the COVID, and having, I think, 18 meetings we had with the advisory committee during that period. But that's a much larger process than the parks impact fee. We have also done similar sort of impact fees for almost every community in Northwest Indiana, with the exception of 1. And Maryville, Sherrville, Cedar Lake, and Winfield. We did Winfield last year. And so we are very familiar with the process. And what the impact fee is, you have started impact fee in 1998 and has continued since then. You were actually, St. John was the first community that started impact fee or established an parks impact fee. And the first couple of them, you did somebody else from Chicago, and then we came in, we have done 3 of them since then. Impact fee is basically it's a development exaction. It's a fee that you charge to new development. For the parks impact fee is only limited to residential uses, no commercial, no industrial. It's just limited to housing. And it is developed on the basis of the need of the residential uses for recreational facilities. And that's the basis of the whole concept of the impact fee. The additional need that is generated by a single family home for park facilities, that is what we are trying to determine in our study. And so the base is, the premise is to develop that cost, and also to that newcomers have to pay their fair share of the cost that is already the rest of the community have incurred. And you have already, through your taxes, through your other payments to the town, you have invested in this community. So newcomers that are coming in, they have to pay their fair share. And that's our task, to determine what that fair share is and how it needs to be calculated. There is a process for that. And you may have heard the concept of taking in the past, mostly in the case of plan commissions or planning land use issues. But the impact, the exaction, the fee that is exacted is part of that legal process. It is considered the land use impact, and it is then therefore it is subject to both federal and state laws. And it goes back to Fifth Amendment, and there are a couple of Supreme Court cases, namely Dolan case and Nolan case. You may have heard it again if you're in Plan Commission, and which are governed and which they establish the legality of the impact fee. The challenge is often is to make sure that we don't cross that threshold that was established by the Supreme Court. That's in the land use part, and that's the federal law relates to the nexus of or connection of this fee with the proportion of the impact. That basically limits it in that fashion. And there are state laws also, and the state established its own, and what is called 1300 series in state statute. And the state establishes a very clear process, both in terms of method and the process for development of an impact fee. And we follow those. We follow very strictly those. The study develops that process and indicates what the steps were to meet those. There are 6 different steps or 6 different requirements in the state statute that says an impact fee should do this, or generate this and this. And we follow those and have that. The state basically says that it has to be also reasonable, and it has to be proportional. And again, the word that state statute uses is equitable, and it has to be an equitable share of the new development. All of these are legalese, but in the process, we have to make sure that those equity consideration is totally taken into consideration. So that is the state statute. State statute also establishes an advisory committee, and the advisory committee is a 5 to 10 member committee. It is professional. It is established based on qualification, with qualifications being real estate development, engineers, accounting, people that do have that. In the past, St. John has chosen 5, and that's a minimum, and that has worked for St. John very well because it's a smaller group, and we can work with them. This process is complicated, and they got to be able to ask questions, and they got to be able to have enough time to digest these information. A larger group tend to be more cumbersome for everybody. So that's the advisory committee meets. We normally work with the advisory committee in 3 to 4 meetings and go step by step at different stages and tell them, share with them what the findings are. And then at the end of that process, the advisory committee makes a recommendation with their findings, with their decisions, and I will go through it and show you some of those sort of tables that they use or they have used in St. John in the past.
So, Tagi,
Yes.
quick question for you. So with respect to your impact fee study, would this be something, or what kind of group effort do you have, envisioned for this? In terms of, are you bringing any other consultants on this to the table, or is this just you, your firm?
it is our farm. We have always done that. We use, however, two sets of other professionals, which is typically provided by the town. One is an engineer, and the statute requires that the fee, which they call the impact zone or impact zone plan, is to be consulted in development of that, to be consulted by an engineer in two different items, and those relate primarily for the cost of land and the cost of the equipment, the assets that you have. And most engineers refer to us. They say, we don't know what the playground cost is. You guys use it and you guys prepare it. So, but we normally use, that's typically in the past, we use the town engineer and set up a meeting, review those, and if they have any comments, we will discuss it, revise it if it is needed. The other individual or entity is the legal entity, and we typically use the town attorney, and that is very limited. Their responsibility would be preparing the resolutions, certifications, and also attending typically all of the advisory committee meetings. And they are not required to attend except the last one, because in most cases, the advisory committee decision is in their last meeting when they want to set up the actual fee, and presence of an attorney would be pretty good there. So if they have any questions, they can get a legal answer. Again, in the past, we have had attorneys here. In other communities, some attend every meeting, some don't, and so those are the only two groups that we anticipate outside our services to provide such service. So the impact, did I answer your question, Joe?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. The development process is basically it's a 5-step process. We collect a bunch of data, and these relate to the population primarily and housing and park expenditures, and we analyze these data, and then we also collect information about the services that are currently provided. These are recreational services, and we measure those in terms of their share or their impact on the households, and it's a lengthy process converting the services into a unit of measurements. And we determine what the impact cost is, and at the same time, for development of the impact cost, we review all of your park asset. And I'll show you in a table at the end of this. For example, your park asset last round was $19 million. We have to list those, identify those. I will have to work with Mike. And every item above $500, we want to know about it, and we list them. And so we have, once we have the units of what's called EDU, equivalent dwelling units, that's the number that we end up with in terms of service units. And we have the cost, and then we can divide the two numbers basically, and then get a impact fee. This is a very simplified version of it. I've put there on the number 6. In terms of methodology, all we are doing is, in a simplified version, we get the park assets, we put $1 on them, and that's the present value of those assets, and the total park service unit, and then cost per service unit comes up, and that becomes the impact fee. Again, this is a very simplified version of it. You got two different sides. One is the units served, and the other one the assets. Divide the two together, and you get that. The next step is fee options. That's probably the advisory committee is the most important or difficult work that they have to do, and they have to review these and come up with a appropriate fee. In that process, again, we provide them with a variety of type of information and data. We let them know what the other communities are charging and what is the prevailing what is the prevailing cost of buildings in town, and how would this fee represent in terms of impact on the total development cost and total purchase price of this home. A lot of times, the advisory committees are concerned, are they going to be economically, are they going to put the town in a disadvantaged position if we increase the fees significantly? And there is a cost. And so they will discuss it. We provide them with a lot of different information, ranging from CPI to what the national average costs are, and so they feel comfortable to make a decision. And then they can make a recommendation, and we typically write the recommendation to them, for them, and they will review it, change it, and it's a very interactive process, the way we work. And then they can send their recommendation to the town council. Their role is advisory, and they have no other responsibility except to advise. The town council is the entity that makes the decision. They can throw away their decision, their recommendation, or they can accept it, they can modify it. That's all their role is. And as a part of that, we also prepare a potential revenue based on the fee that they are recommending, and that is so they know the Parks Department can roughly budget what the next 5 years brings, and based on the number of housing that has been projected to be built. That is a sort of rough synopsis of the stuff we do. And I have some tables, the last page of your handout, that shows what we did or what the fee has been for the last 3. And as you can see, in 2008, it was, the actual fee determination was $2,809. And but the advisory committee decided to lower it, and there are a lot of reasons for it, as I mentioned, for economic reason, for other reasons, but that was roughly 59% of the calculated net fee that they decided to recommend to the council. And it seems that for the following 2, they also suggested the same roughly fee at 58% of the calculated net fee. So that is what they did, and that went into the ordinance. The current fee is about $1,868, and then that is the current fee. We talked about the service units. I've put the next table. It sort of shows the analysis that we have done and establishment of EDUs. You will hear me talking about during all of these different meetings, EDUs, because we will have significant amount of work doing. This is basically measuring the level of service from what is the town offering and into a unit of measurements that we call it EDU. And so that is based on the housing characteristics. And on that basis, we determine what is the total EDU. In the case of last round, the town had about 6,100 EDUs. That's your total service unit. That's different than the housing unit, you understand that? That's, the housing units, you can see that there is a difference. But that's the measures that we are gonna use in terms of identifying the impact fee, the impact cost. We also looked at what is your assets? And looking at these are, again, very simplified version of it. We have details of several pages of tables that list all of your assets and value those. Total assets was $19 million. And we divide the two, again, in a simplified version, that gives you the base impact fee cost. There still have to be some other modification has to be made and to come up with a final impact cost. And last part, once it is approved, we determine what the potential revenue is. And in this case, we were really, at that time, we know we have underestimated. At the time, you had about 200, 220 housing units per year built in the town. And from the work we did in 2021 for the road impact fee, you went up to 400. I don't know what it is in this year so far or last year, but your total revenue should be much higher than what we originally projected. And then the last table shows we have very quickly put a sort of process chart there that if we start somewhere within the next 4 weeks, we should be able to get to July 26. That is your deadline. That is the time that the fee, if the council has not approved an ordinance, your fee was called lapse. In other words, you cannot charge the fee. And so that is our sort of deadline. And we back from that and try to get this process started as soon as possible if you're awarded.
Anybody have any questions? Pretty thorough. More questions?
More questions?
Yes, yeah, if
All
you
right.
want to do your next one.
Done the same sort of process for the needs assessment. A little bit different, but
Thank you.
as much as the impact fee is cumbersome and if you come to it, you see that every meeting I have with the advisory committee, I apologize for putting them through all those calculations and the facility needs assessment or the rec needs assessment is fun, and in our process, it will be fun. It will be much more process that people think and really creative thinking comes out from the group that we work with. On first of this, what we have done, what we have proposed, is to set up a planning committee that we work with. You will make that decision who the planning committee should be, and that we work with to set up that initial group, because we need to have reaction. And we need to hear from what you are the community, you are the people that are going to be using this facility. So we think that composition of that planning committee is important, and also in terms of decision making and moving the process along. They could also serve as a steering committee, push the process along. And so who goes in there in terms of the membership is important, and what they see as far as their task and their work is important. Nonetheless, a lot of this, again, I'm using the last two projects as an example that we have done site selection and feasibility studies. One is in Maryville, and the other one with Boys and Girls Club. And I'm sharing the same sort of things, tables and charts that we have done for them as a sample. That doesn't mean we're going to do exactly the same. For you, yours is a little bit different, and but it is. It would be, I think, helpful to see what we mean, or what I mean by when we're talking about the process. I have taken liberty to sort of identify what the study objective is, at least at this point. But we want to work with you to finalize that. What do you really want to see this product to look, to feel, to smell, to what's the end result that you're looking for? So we think that it should reflect the community, it should reflect the Parks Department, and also it as a part of our work. It has to be engaging other individuals or stakeholders in this process. And we evaluate the needs of the community. By the end of this process, you should at least have a roughly good idea what those needs are.
Right. Hey, Tagi,
Yes.
would you have any partners on this project in terms of outside of your services?
Again, we have, in the past, we have used architects and.
Right, what I'm asking specifically is, on this specific project, do you intend to use any partners, and if so, who?
As I mentioned, you did not ask, the architect primarily, no. The short answer is no. But we have put that as an optional task in our proposal, that if you prefer to have a much more defined building program, as well as a cost estimate, we can bring in perhaps the same architect that we worked with in the past, and as a part of our team. And the way we have right now is we have a not to exceed fee we have put in there. So it is possible that we can add other folks in here if you feel that is needed, that's desired. And in the RFP, your RFP was specific, said that you don't want to have a cost estimate, and so we did not include that.
Okay.
Okay. So as a whole, this process, our process, will potentially identify some partners. Do you want to have some partners in this facility? And school, do they want to be involved? Do you expect them to be involved, and to what extent? So these are the things we're going to discuss in the scoping meeting, and perhaps finalize it in that fashion. And we will have a conceptual layout plan of this, what it is going to be potentially, or what are the alternative sites for it, and then what that layout could look like, how large of a facility it is going to be, and what size of the site you would need for this facility. So that is the objectives that you're sort of starting. And again, we're going to talk to you in the scoping meeting and see if there is anything else that we need to consider as we go through this process. The process itself is basically 4 different or 3 different steps, and then which end in a 4th one. And then that is initially it'll be a needs assessment, determine what are the recreational needs in the town, and that's primarily involves indoor recreation. And do we need to have aerobics, and to what extent can we have that? So that is, we do a variety of studies, analysis of recreational profile of the community. We determine the needs using a variety of, again, data, and we also discuss potential partners. And that would be a sort of a major element of that sort of needs assessment. And the second step would be the sort of facility program and building and site, and then that is a variety of type of, based on the needs that we have identified, we put number in there and then come up with a general programming for the building. Site selection, we need your advice, we need your input, you're here, and we can look at up to 2 or 3 sites and fit this, do they fit within this site, whatever we have come up with. And there is a site selection criteria that we use and evaluate each site, and then come up with a sort of site evaluation for these different sites that we have identified with your help. These 3 items then feed into the facility development and what are the development strategies and what potential funding would be available, and also partnership opportunities that we talked about. How do they fit within the larger things? And so that's sort of the 3 process for this facility. And our approach would be consists of 3 sets of work that we do. Assessing the present, we have called it, and that consists of demographic analysis, variety of types of analysis that we do for demographics, and again, depending on your focus that you want to see, your objectives, we may focus, you may tell us, well, and this was the case in Maryville. They were very much adamant about that we need to address our senior citizens' needs. So that is something, do that, and we did those types of specialized type of analysis for that, rather than just give them a number, well, you have this much senior citizen. No, we did go beyond that, just this much senior citizens. And so whether you're focusing on boomers, whether you're focusing on youth, those are the analysis we want to know, and we will perform. And we also perform what are the trends, what is the regionally and nationally, what is happening and what's going on there. And a lot of things have changed last couple of years, and the whole concept of work has changed. And so those are the data we want to bring in, and which is totally different than our previous work. And yeah.
Tag, if I could ask you to wrap it up, because we've got other, we still have to do, I think, 2 more interviews, don't we? So we just want to be respectful to people's time on that, that's all.
Right, absolutely.
So if you kind of just maybe do your summary on this.
Right, okay. So the next step, again, we go into what are the futures, that's a market demand analysis. And we have several processes that we use and determine for different types of sports activities. We determine the market. And the last part is to work to develop a vision for this. And that would be how this facility building program will look like. Does it gonna have, for example, the Parks Department in it? Do we have a facility for after school? Do we have a daycare in it? So those are the visions, and the site selection part of it, the same situation, and then that is we want to establish the criteria, and for site selection, and the final would be the facility development. What goes in there, and what is the concept of the facility, and if you choose to go more in depth for that, as I said, it is in our scope. We can do a more refined concept plan of for this facility based on the program, based on the site, and then develop a magnitude or a range of cost for such a facility. The last but not the least would be to recommend what are the next steps. What do you need to do to go further? And that would be sort of an action plan. What I have in the tables is, you can see the table one, it basically shows for the rec center, this is again for Maryville, for the rec center, what was the amount, what is the size of Maryville, what type of facility do we need? A typical national rec center is what, 27,000 square feet. This is in 2015. And we will update those to today. And in Maryville case, it was that they would need about 1.2 size of that facility, somewhere around 35,000 square feet. In 2015, in 2025, which was a 10-year horizon, it was 1.5 times of that. So it was like 40-some thousand square feet building. That takes into consideration their population growth. I have one sort of image that you see 3 different sites. Those were the 3 final sites in Maryville, and we scored each site, or the committee scored each site, and that's the type of thing we should expect to do here. We also the type of use, what is the services that are needed in Maryville based on 2015 and 2025, and the next table shows that. And these are again comparing the city with the national averages and coming up with these numbers. I have a sort of simple version of it, which I think in your case we will have something similar unless we change the direction. For Boys and Girls Club, that basically shows the building program, what are different in terms of a square footage. And one of the major element of our analysis would be how do we distribute participation, and that's part of it, and the next couple of tables shows that the participation, and based on that participation, then we can come up with a estimate for the market participation for the facility. And we are using, in this case, and that's national, that's normal practice, the low participation rate, how many people do we expect, a medium and a high participation rate. And on that basis, we can make decision, yes, if we put a walking track in this facility, we should anticipate 5,000 people to use it. That is a quick synopsis of our work. And again, we are here, and we think we know the town. And this is like my half home. My daughter lives here, and so I'm here on almost on a weekly basis. And we have done so much work in the town that we think we have the sense of the town beyond what is required as a matter of study. I think that social aspects, the social values of the community is as important in these things than just numbers. And we'll be happy to help you.
Thanks.
Any questions?
I do not.
Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Who we got next, Mike?
Just reviewing the page, the page you sent.
Right, do we have anyone else?
No, just talking about this.
Okay, so Baker Tilly's not presenting it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you.
So Baker Tilly's not doing presentation?
No, they were, after our December meeting, we just decided to ask these two to speak about it because they were doing the combo
Okay.
proposals. The other two were just the single proposals, so we left, I mean, they still reviewed it and stuff.
Right,
but-
right. So we put together kind of a score sheet based on the three that submitted the proposals for the impact fee, and I gave everyone a copy of that. Mike and I kind of went through these at a macro level to kind of see where things are, and Mike actually did do a summary sheet on the back of the packet he gave you guys to kind of give you the summary of what that looks like. Baker Tilly did submit a proposal for the impact fee study, but they did not submit one for the needs assessment. Veritas submitted one for the needs assessment, but didn't submit one for the impact fee study. Now, they weren't required to, and we did, take a look at, all the proposals kind of is in the totality, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, not just dollars and cents, but who do we think can deliver on both of these, in a reasonable manner, knowing that one's kind of going to flow into the other. So, I mean, it's we're looking for a recommendation from you guys. With respect to that, we kind of scored the impact fee studies because we kind of needed to know where, we were on that, and we weren't that far off, Mike and I. So, let you guys kind of go through that. If you have any questions on it, we're here to answer.
I had two. First of all, the gentleman who was just here with Arch Group had said that he's done all of the impact fees since 2008, but they got scored with experience with the town of St. John very low.
And if you read the information that Mike provided in the memo, that might explain why a little bit more.
Okay.
I'm not going to go through it at a public meeting. I just don't think that's
Okay, it was just when they're saying experience, you're saying whatever he said in that memo is going to lead into this experience. Okay.
Right, and he
All right.
has, the Arch
Understood.
Group has had a long, number of years with the town. But I mean, I think, originally when we talked about doing this a year ago, well, probably a year ago, wasn't it? Mike, they brought up to do a needs assessment, which would roll into the comprehensive plan, if you will, for the parks plan, and then the impact fee study. So we're kind of a year behind in getting the needs assessment completed, but I think it's definitely long overdue to get that done.
Okay, and then my second question was, and perhaps this was already addressed, but in our last meeting, a few of us didn't think that the Arch Group, we were comparing the Arch Group apples to apples with Structure Point. They had a lot more in their NTE than what Structure Point had in their NTE. It seemed as though Structure Point answered the RFP and asked us, or were providing exactly what we were asking them for, and then they gave us an NTE for that. Whereas the Arch Group was saying, well, we'll give you a conceptual rendering too, and we'll give you this and we'll give you that, and here's a different NTE. So we left that meeting saying, well, we don't really feel like, at least I've said it, I don't feel like I'm comparing apples to apples here. So it's hard for me to weigh that.
Mm-hmm.
Have we gotten any update on that?
Well, I mean, what they sent in basically would have been how they portrayed the RFQ and stuff like that, basically, because, you know, it's put out there, and they could come back and ask questions, and both groups called and asked questions and stuff, and I talked to both of them, but also make sure you follow what the proposal says. I think the one thing with American Structure Point, and I mean, I think they said tonight too, was that, you know, this, and you said it too, I mean, just, this is what we need now for phase one. There's always going to be a, you know, phase two as we go down the road and stuff like that, but.
And they brought their whole team out today, so I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed that they do. I mean, a lot of times they'll bring a team, but these guys brought their whole team, so I was kind of impressed with that.
Am I reading it right? The numbers here that Ash Group, kind of why the one number looks a little low is because they're not including, as he stated, he's not including legal or engineering. And it looks like the other two firms, it look like it's about a $20,000 amount for engineering, so that you gotta add that back into Ash's bid, and then it starts looking the same.
Well, that's where we're gonna get caught and get into the mud, as they say, is when he's saying, well, I need the engineer to do this, and I need the engineer to do this, and then
Open-ended.
it could cause delays, it could cause problems where these guys are bringing their whole team together.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yep. Difference.
but that's a very good observation, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think too, with their whole team.
And we've experienced that. I mean.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, think of the whole team. I mean, they're working on it, right? So their team, so they have the knowledge of it, and just they know the flow from A to Z. Where I
Yes.
think at times where, okay, use our engineer, okay, our attorney, but then, you know, it doesn't. It's not going to flow.
Yeah.
You know, how I. Okay.
It's not as clean as it.
Yeah, correct.
It's a bit of a mess doing stuff
Yeah,
like that.
right.
Even as he said,
Extra explanations.
over the wire or whatever, I forgot what I was saying. Like, he's like, you don't want me building your building, but I'm the financial side of it. To where this guy, we're like, we want him to build it, this guy's a like, that's the whole
Yeah.
team. Like, there were a couple things they said around that where I'm just like, that really impressed me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was
You know, and then how they brought the park impact guy into it.
Yeah.
To where he's like, he goes, and that'll really, you know, it'll bring everything together all in one.
Yeah,
Like, it just seemed very impressive to me.
And they said their track record is a 3 to 5% difference between their proposal and their final cost, and that's very impressive.
I guess my only question would be if we have either group do both assessments together or separately, let's just say we use one for one and one for the other, is that transition going to create its own problems? Because if you look at the numbers based on what they're asking for, there's a significant difference in the total package. To the tune of, based on what I see, 40% more.
Well, that's where I was at. That was my kind of what I meant by my comment. It looks to me like that Ash is leading off engineering. So when I add that $20,000 back in, now it's
Right, no, I
within a
agree.
now it's within a couple $1,000 bucks. Is that what you mean, Dave?
Well, that's part of it. But I mean, I guess my question, like I said before, my biggest problem would be if Team A does the actual needs assessment and Team B does the actual facilities assessment, you're gonna have some cross ideology on what one wrote down as a need and the other not. You don't need that.
Right. You're gonna have conflict.
At the end of the day, the continuity of having one
You're gonna have
turn right around and do the other, to me, that because, not that we're in a time crunch, but obviously we're a little behind in the needs assessment.
Right.
Okay, we have to get our master plan together in the next 18 months or so. So, I mean, there is a time element that's involved, and any type of non-continuity would create just, I mean, we've all seen red tape.
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
And red tape can be,
messy,
can be messy.
yes. Yes.
I agree.
Almost sounds like we're all kind of on the same page. I think that we're kind of looking for a favorable recommendation.
Yeah.
Is that where we're at?
Yes.
We want to do that tonight, or we want to digest these numbers until our actual meeting?
I think we're
I'd
great
just get it off
tonight.
the table.
Huh?
I'd rather get it off the table.
That's fine. No,
That was kind of the whole idea tonight. Let's
No,
get this done so we
right.
can get
No,
moving.
no, I'm okay.
Yep, we're good. You can entertain a motion.
I'd like to entertain a motion to accept American Structure Point for the facility needs assessment and for the park impact fee.
Can we do those separate?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yes, sir. Entertain a motion to accept American Structure Point for the facility needs assessment. That was not to exceed 25,000, not to exceed 25,000.
Lauren Sostek will make the motion to entertain American Construction Point for the facility needs assessment not to exceed $25,000.
Lauren with the motion. Do we have a second?
I second Lauren's motion.
Vanessa,
Vanessa Merkel.
second the motion. All in favor of the motion signify with an aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed with an A, and it's carried. Second one, I'd like to entertain a motion for American Structure Point with the park impact fee not to exceed 65,000. Was that the final number on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Not to exceed 65,000. Would you like to make a motion?
Lauren Sostek will make a motion to entertain American Structure Point,
Recommend.
to recommend American Structure Point for the park impact fee not to exceed $65,000.
I have a motion on the floor from Lauren. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Dave Easold with the second. All in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it's carried.
Okay. I'll write up a memo and I'll send it over to Joe in the town council office.
All right, so we'll move on. Any public comment? I don't see anything. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Dave with the motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
Vanessa with the second. All in favor for motion, signify with an aye.
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 Opposed? And we're adjourned.